Welcome to the Healing Circle podcast. I'm Desiree.
I'm Lauren Zakia.
And I'm E. Nicole.
And we are faculty and fellows at InPower Institute, which is a center for community healing and optimal living.
Our series marks the 400th anniversary of the first Africans who arrived as captives.
So today we will center our discussion around the theme 400 Years of Reinvention. It's time to heal, y'all.
The experiences of African diaspora people, enslavement, rebellions, the civil rights movement, and other Black power movements have shaped Black culture and societal culture at large, I would say. Mm-hmm. The imprint of Africa is evident in a myriad of ways: religion, politics, music, fashion, dance, food, and worldview. We have forged a world-class culture through the reverberating beat of freedom and liberation. So that is just the tip of the iceberg that the diaspora has brought to the world. So what are some of the contributions that come to mind?
Well, I think about the ways that particularly our experience has shaped music and other forms of expression. So I think that for people who had their bodies held in bondage and servitude, that was a very direct effect on the body, like an embodiment. If there was a such thing as an embodiment of pain, your body is feeling that. And in that same way that that happens, I think that we took that pain and repurposed it or reused it as a way to express ourselves in very powerful and authentic ways. So even when you think about the groanings and the very deep resonance of spirit in gospel music or in blues or in jazz, like all of those things, it's like every part of us and every part of our experience was brought to that platform because it was so deeply felt. And I don't want to glorify pain and oppression to say, you know, it was a good tool.
We got a beat. We got a tune.
But it's something about even in the most horrific circumstances that we were able to use that as a force to propel hope and to not be discouraged or dismayed because of a lived experience. So I'd like to say it was like this, I even hate to use the word resilience, but it was an unstoppable force that I felt like Black people met their oppression with an unwavering spirit to say, and I still stand, and no, you're not going to destroy me, and you may inflict my body, and you may do all manner of evil to me, but I will still yet live, and not just live, but influence the next generation. I mean, it's magic.
That is magic. When I think of contributions, I automatically think of science.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yep.
So you're welcome, world.
Everything.
For everything. And even just like the building blocks of America, like your light switches, your filaments in bulbs, traffic signals, washing machines, Benjamin Banneker with the mathematics for DC and that whole structure. Like, we are an intelligent people, and for those to try to say that we are not, it is an oxymoron, and it's moronic. So I automatically think of the things that we wouldn't have had it not been for the African influence.
Yeah. Which is to say, like, our history did not start here on these shores, even though we are in 1619 was the first recorded of us being here, even though I would say we were here before. Mm-hmm. But we were brilliant and capable and invented many things, and that wisdom lives in our DNA. Mm-hmm. So even in 1690, as being enslaved, there was wisdom in those enslaved Africans that went back hundreds of years, because they lived in a civilization where they were very resourceful and educated and capable, and were in harmony with many things that they needed to survive and to build a culture and society.
Yeah, and the truth is, and we continue to just be brilliant in everyday inventions and things like that, and just the creativity around survival and thriving that happens in just like the hood, just straight up, like the way you can put some shit together, and then like literally other like cultures to this day, to this second, we'll try to look at something that we're doing as like an everyday thing of like putting this together to make this happen, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll take it and try to resell it to mass population and get profit off of it, which has been going on for a while. And so that's something, and yeah, I'm with Desiree on what came to mind for me. Is definitely, man, the science. And I just started immediately like pulling up some things. There's a long list. Now, of course, a lot of these lists too, they will have more black men than it is black women. We know that we've been doing the shit, and everybody's been doing the shit. But for this sake, like even airplanes, literally, James S. Adams allowed for airplane propelling means. This created the opportunity for blades to rotate parallel to airflow in order to lessen a possible drag if an engine failure were to occur. So literally, as I think about St. Louis Lambert Airport taking over Black Land and Kinloch, they wouldn't even be able to have a damn airport if it wasn't for black folks being able to get their little shit off the ground. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I'm just like, yo, just the irony of some of the of what we have and continue to produce, and then how then a story gets then sucked up, chewed up, and then spit back out to where it says, then you start to hear people talking like, man, black folks, we got to get our shit together. We ain't never blah blah blah. And I'm like, so you actually what you're consuming, chewing on, and then swallowing has actually been the vomit from somebody else, from what used to be some good damn nutrition. Mm-hmm. A real the truth, real story, right? And so that's just something that man, that just like constantly think about our contributions, and then how much. When you think about as far as access, or even sometimes lack of access to what then became mainstream production of narratives and stories and in books and stuff, we know how much like pictures have been lightened so that it looks like it's somebody else, names have been changed, and all these other things have gone on. And so, man, we wouldn't, there's been so many damn contributions. I'm glad that we do have some things that have been recorded. But considering how things go to this day, to this second, I would bet that we we only scratch at the surface of everything.
Totally. And not even just the contributions that are so ingrained in society, like an airplane, but even the frivolous ones, like a black man created the Super Soaker. So while we out here having summertime fun, a black man gave you that.
Man.
That's wild.
Black man gave you summertime fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He gave you summertime tunes and summertime fun.
Yeah. Yo-Ho Summer, actually.
Right. It's produced by the Negroes.
Right. We ain't messing with no cold. So, in fact, we probably
we're in the house.
But if we look into some inventions around cold since being here, I'm pretty sure, because we don't like the cold, we probably had quite a few interventions around
heating.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we have. And so, yeah, absolutely, just ridiculous contributions.
Yeah.
In fact, there wouldn't be, just in terms of the idea of the wealthy class would not exist without black people. The structure of how businesses and, capitalism, all that shit was built all on the backs of our work.
Yeah.
And so none of this
Yeah.
None of it.
Right.
Right, because we came from a place where we were very much in tune with the land.
Yeah.
So we knew how to rotate soil and to plant and create the infrastructure for drainage, I'm all of that. And so our labor was used to dig canals and put them to engineer the plantation and the tools that would then produce the revenue, but also knowing how to treat the land and soil so that you yield a crop, like all of that.
Yeah, including teamwork.
Yes.
Yeah. And so something like that's the part of the whole thing, like I was saying about a story getting like warped and twisted, like, oh, y'all don't know how to work well together, and then all of a sudden push. But really, man, talk about synergy.
Yeah.
The original systems builders.
Yeah.
Like, this has been going on and everything like that. And so, and when you think about, we were like studied very, 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 very well.
Yeah, still are.
And I think it goes to show you how incorrect the information that has been put into the world about us is. Like, lead it to the popular culture to tell you that Black people don't know anything, we don't do anything, we haven't contributed anything to society. But you came and took us from our place of residence, where we had all of these systems set up. You came in and you studied us. You're like, oh, they have these things going. You brought us here to duplicate it. That goes against everything that white nationalists tell you.
Well, child, I watched Hidden Colors 4 yesterday and got a whole... It was
better than me.
And I got back upset again. Well, I'm sitting there at 5 now, but I was reminded of the Moors who helped the Europeans establish like sanitation or hygiene practices because they had diseases and they didn't know how, your animals don't belong in the house, and the reason why you're sick is because you may have fecal matter and urine and all kind of other stuff weaved into the household. So this is how you care for them.
Still struggling with washing their legs.
Yes.
So
that too. So it's like, not only were we were forced labor here, but we were invited to help build structures in Europe.
And we also
before
gave the game away for free.
And we did.
We are a giving people, much to our detriment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Europe would not be the Europe we see now without the Moors coming in saying, oh, no, y'all can't build no society like this. This is why y'all sick.
And it could have been, I think sometimes things could even be defensive. Like, y'all getting a little bit too close to us. Let's make sure you got this shit right, because everybody knows if neighbors move in and they got roaches, you're going to end up having roaches.
That's very true.
And so you got to make sure, like, I don't want all this shit coming across the Mediterranean.
Right.
But, and then I think about then the story of what is said about Africa now. Like, oh, Africa's so poor, Africa needs all this help. Well, give our shit back.
Right.
So think about like the resources of like people, some of your best and brightest, being taken, completely stolen, and then also some of your best and brightest minerals and everything like that just continually being stripped. Yeah. And so when you rip out the heart of something, and then continually suck it out, and like, oh, well, now it's dry. Why you so dry? Like, the little ashy land. Like, right. What? Excuse me? And then, but also that's not even the full story of everything, because it still is so vast and plentiful in the areas. But then there's also been a full drought, because that's where you've been sucking on our teats. Like, back the fuck up.
Yeah. And even with saying all that, it's prevalent that we are still magical. We still have the glow. To use a reference from one of my favorite Negro films, The Last Dragon with Bruce Leroy.
Sure enough.
So what about us makes us so magical?
Well, I think it's the our strategic nature that will see a thing and see what is there and what is not, and immediately go to implement what is not there while supporting what is already there. I mean, I think that, which requires imagination, I would say. I often have used this analogy of being in the wild, and how the wild is a great place to be, but we've often been told that the wild is dangerous and a place that you should not go because it's untamed and it's unprocessed, which means that if I wanted light, you know, in our industrialized society, if I want light, I just flick on the light switch. But if I'm out in the wild, there ain't no light switch. So I got to be resourceful and figure out how I'm going to get light. So whether that's a campfire, you know, I got to learn how to build it or whatever. But I implore the resources from the land in which to support what it is that I need. But it takes a creative mind to think beyond a limitation. And I think that we have always had a creative mind to think beyond the limitation. We often say here at the center is that oppression is no match for a fully creative human mind. So that which means that we can be unstoppable when we know specifically who we are, even when there's a threat of danger that tries to impede our progress. If I have a free mind and if I can creatively think, then your oppression ain't got shit on me. I'm going to still find a way to do what I need to do. And that is the magic of Black people.
So sometimes, and maybe there may be some others listening who may also relate to this. Sometimes I struggle with the word magical, with magic, and applying that to us, to Black people. And so some things that come up for me.
The Magical Negro. Have y'all seen that skit?
I have seen that skit, and I also had notes.
Yeah,
that was so that trope. Yeah,
yeah. So it's like as in magical, as in like in comparison to what or who, and so it's like I feel like that term is like beneath it all. Who is that voice coming from? And I think about how, because I also struggle with word when somebody says, "Ooh, you're so exotic," and things like that. And so I'm just like, and so I get it. And then as far as like, then when it comes from Blacks, like, you know, isn't a word of like endearment and like power and empowering and things like that. But I'm like, ugh, because that's when I struggle with the whole like superwoman and things like that. And so I'm just like, so how much are we just naturally, organically dope as shit? And I don't know, maybe
and I think that's just an easy way to explain it. Is our dopeness is magical. I think that's just a plain way of putting it. I do feel like that could have been given to us to explain the things that we do. And in the same vein, I had a note about the magical Negro. So like, Black people are fixers. That's what most of us can do. Like, we see a problem, we also see a solution. And in that vein, we have been given this magical Negro title. Stephen King is masterful at putting a magical Negro in a book or in a story. It'll be some, you know, figure that comes through and somebody's auntie. She the only Black person in town.
I ain't read no Stephen King books, clearly.
But she can fix it, you know, or he can fix it. And it's not a diss to Stephen King, but he's just top of mind when I think about a magical Negro, or when we see some of these other movies like The Help. Like, these Black women are in here, you know, nursing these babies and giving them affirmations. You is smart, you is kind, you is wonderful.
Yeah. While not receiving that same affirmation.
Well, not receiving that. Like, we are dispensing this magic, this dopeness, this wonderful fixing nature, and it's not being reciprocated. Mm-hmm. We have to replenish ourselves. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of spaces that is just not done. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think about, how much is it that I don't know. Okay, so if it wasn't so much shit that got broken, like, we really had to be fixing. And so I'm just like, is it that we magical here? Because if we were never disturbed in the first place, we would be going through regular life with our systems and stuff like that. Not saying, well, no, I am saying shit got disturbed. Yeah. And off the axis, right? And so I'm just like, and that's why I just was questioning as far as magical. Then at what point? Because magical actually means different. So then my thing is, from what? From who?
Right.
And from white folks. What is it? And then it's almost like, so what is? And then what's the normal?
Right.
And so this is where I just, like to kind of pause, and I'm just like, and I always get kind of hung up right there. So I feel like there's a little something else that's worth unpacking. I don't know if we're going to have time to do it all today, but yeah.
Probably not. And I can see that same issue around the phrase of Black excellence, because sometimes we just regular, and even your regular is excellent to me. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be out here saving the world for your Blackness to be superior.
Yeah, that came up in Clean and Slim in the movie recently.
I haven't seen it.
We won't discuss it.
Oh yeah, but it was just it came up. It came up. That's all we'll say. Is it came up.
It came up, and when it came up in that film, and I had a discussion with my partner about it. He was like, "Well, everybody's not excellent." He was saying how that is likened to a form of trying to be a part or assimilate to white culture with this excellent narrative. Like, you're not like a regular Black person. Yeah. You're an excellent Black person. I'm still fleshing it all out, but I can see the similarities between using a word like magical in reference to a Black person, and also using the word excellent. I think both can be positive attributes, but to dig deeper as to the origin of said attributes and how are we applying it. I don't want my gifts to be attributed to something otherworldly, like it is, because we all down from Mars or whatever, but it's also regular, like,
or the planet got invaded.
But it is otherworldly, but it is also regular. So the magic that I possess, the homegirl also possesses. So I don't want it to create. I don't want magic or excellence to create any elitism. Within the community.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that the Black excellence, not speaking about the movie, but Black excellence, and I think people, just like how in a previous episode when we were talking about defining power, people may be talking about something completely different. While they're saying like Black excellence, some people may be thinking about assimilation, but then in all reality, white culture didn't get shit without us anyway.
Right,
so then it all comes back in the whole cycle, right? So like, what really is it like? What are we working toward? But then also it could be just how we do our excellence. How we rep our people and things like that, and just how we can, how it is like this the Mexican proverb of like they thought that they were putting us in the ground and burying us, but they didn't know we were seeds.
Right.
And so I also get that around the magical, the Black excellence and things like that. But then also so anyway, just lost my train of thought right
That's
there.
all right. We'll be on the same wavelength.
Yeah, pick me up.
And even in saying all of these great and wonderful things, our contributions and us, sprinkling our fairy dust across the world and the diaspora, these different spots that we've been dropped off at, how do we maintain a sense of pride when our history is constantly being co-opted or at times erased? my first thing is to keep creating and keep. And I hate that we rely so much on perseverance, but clearly it ain't steered us wrong yet. Because the people, the generation that is here now is the answer to the generation previously. Like we have the ability to do things that our foreparents did not. And it's because of the things that they did. They persevered just as we will. Things can get hella ugly and so dark, but we create and we contribute and we rise and we do all of this regular shit that keeps us going from day to day. And I would also say it's controlling what you do. It's having power over what you give out of yourself and what you take in from other people. If you don't want anybody else wearing your box braids, you can definitely step in and say, hey girl, the box braids is not for you. Go ahead, let me get you some dry shampoo and teach you how to do that, but you can't have these box braids. That's just what I think, by controlling the narrative or taking back, putting a firm boundary on what we allow.
Yeah. Well, I think that in our culture that's very individualistic, that people are kind of championing their own agenda solo and believe that the way to get to a destination of success and abundance is to just go at it alone. That going at it alone is one of the reasons, or one of the ways in which we lose our sense of pride, because we are re-energized, I think, when we are in community with other people. We lose sight of that when we think that we have to go at it alone, or that we alone have the solution to a particular problem. So, yeah, I mean, I think having roots, understanding where we've been, and that we are a part of the past and also connected to the present and future, helps us to stay grounded in a sense of pride. Because that's where I think the truth resides. The truth doesn't reside alone within yourself. And white supremacy will kind of dupe you into believe that this individualistic way of knowing is the way to go or the way to be.
Yeah. So what I was thinking about in terms of like what to do when I haven't maintained that sense of pride when history is erased or co-opted is, one, I was just questioning whether or not it actually can be erased. And in some ways I even question, like, to what degree I feel like a lot of times shit can actually be fully, like, stolen. And I know that, like, no, not the efforts are there to do it, but a lot of times, like, you ever have somebody, like, they think that they taking your shit and taking your idea, but really they ain't even grasp the full thing anyway, but they're taking it and, like, almost like that game telephone, they're retelling this stuff in the way that they actually perceived it with the information and abilities that they had, but it wasn't really it. You didn't really grasp grandmama's teachings for real, right. And so I just kind of think about that. It was like, but can you really defeat, and so, but the way that, I like to work to and moving forward, especially into into the next day, into the week, but also into 2020 and beyond, is really continuing to focus on, like, collective memory and that collective remembering, because we weren't all, like, born together in the same family, but the beautiful thing about the diaspora is that everybody has, collectively we have this full truth, right? And the more we pull together, and that's where, like, power comes into play, and that's why the pushing of that individualistic kind of pursuit and path is a weapon. Yeah, it's a tool to that collective, and to get you to stay severed from your membership. And so I think that is definitely a tool of like individuals, people who, you know, still keep your own who you are, but then also recognize that collection, that collective, and then also the connection to my ancestors and spirits, you know, and things like that is just one of those powerful things where that cannot be erased.
Yeah. Well, I think about the proverb, the African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone.
There you go.
But if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason why we were able to come this far is because we went at it together.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It wasn't about like, oh, well, you're not in my direct bloodline, so blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Like, all right, well, one thing that you did is you done, now all the tribes are together.
Right.
And so it's like crazy. It's like you ever see on one like those scary movies, something started chopping something in half and it broke into, now it's 2 pieces. Damn, now I got to fight 2 of them. So now you chop into more pieces, like,
Not the
you
gremlins.
Know, the gremlins or something, but that'll happen. You can chop like
or baby's kids.
but you can chop
they don't die.
like a worm or like oftentimes
and
like
regenerate.
Exactly.
And now it's 2 of them.
And so now it's a whole fleet.
Yeah.
Now you done messed up. And in a previous episode, we discussed kinship
and relations, and I think this is one of those things where fictive kinship comes into play. Mm-hmm. We are not all part of the same bloodline, but we are family, and I know everybody does not buy into that. But I am of the firm belief that your business is my business. If I see somebody yelling at Lauren across the street, I'm definitely going to roll my window down and be like, "What's the problem here?" You know, and it could be another black person, because I feel like we are all each other's business. Just in this society that we are in, we have to take care of one another, and I think that is a part of maintaining that pride, that it doesn't bother me to see what's going on with you. It's going to help you further create whatever it is you're supposed to create and give back to society. Because the glow is not going to pass you by, you know, because that's yours. You know, it's not in danger, that can't be co-opted. And I think a humorous way to think about it is like, we all eat potato salad and we all like potato salad, but Sue Ann's potato salad don't taste like Aunt Regina's. You know, it ain't gonna taste like Grandma Ida's. So potatoes is potatoes, but
potato salad and potato salad.
Right.
Yeah. Something else real quick in terms of like tangible steps, because some people could be like, oh, what is collective memory? Like, how do you grasp that?
Right.
The ancestors, well, what? How do I grasp that? But also, it's in supporting groups and, you know, people who are out there taking up space and creating space for us. And you know, that those incubator spaces, and just going in. I'm thinking about a good new friend that we met. I was able to meet earlier this year. D.L. Mullen, or Danny, who owns the only currently existing black woman-owned bookstore in Chicago, right? And you know, in the heart of downtown Chicago, with all this expensive stuff and everything like that, and she got her unapologetically black as hell, smells like black woman when you walk in. You know, it smells like home, you know, as soon as you walk in that place. And so just like, and going and making sure to support, you know, the people, folks and places that are there taking up space, and be there and just like show up, you know, things like on the, like a everyday type of thing that you can do. And to look for those places. And if you don't see them around you, live in an area where they're not existing, then you work with others to create them.
Right.
And then it doesn't matter. It could be something as simple of, you know, you don't have the money to rent out or buy a place. Well, do you got a living room? You know, you start maybe with there, and like working on getting people in that. You just start to form those bonds, and you'd be surprised with everything that can get established. And so a lot of times people like wonder, like, well, what do I do? It's like, it's just stop, you know, don't hinder yourself by looking at what you don't have. Start counting and looking around at everything that is in place that you do, and then you just build from there. But there is, like, you know, so anybody listening, I would definitely encourage them to take some time and think about what's the lowest hanging fruit, right? Of stuff that you can start to do to either collectively recall history. And also, I like what you said about guarding certain shit and setting up boundaries, to protect yourself from, you know, corruption and co-opting. shit.
I would agree with all of that. And if you are in the St. Louis Metro East area, InPower Institute is a great place to come and find your tribe and get some kinfolk and learn about your ancestors and how to tap into that. So in saying that, we want to thank you for listening to this episode and thank you for joining us. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at InPower Institute. That is INPOWER Institute. And visit our website, InPowerInstitute.com, for more information. Thanks for listening.
Bye.